Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Integrity Project. I'm Roy Coachella, your host, and today I am so honored to have a guest that helped guide me, inspire me, and lead the way for me to actually change the direction of my life. He's a man that showed me that I was worthy, someone who's deserving of love, of abundance, and of unconditional love. He's a man that really helped me, actually gave me the courage to discover who I really was, to dig deep, to face my fears and my shadows. So today I am honored to have my mentor from Man on Fire, David Mehler, who's going to give us the insights. And this is going to be an amazing episode. So guys, welcome, David Mehler. Today, we're not just talking to the founder of Man on Fire. We are talking to the man who decided men needed more than success. They needed healing, brotherhood, and truth. And I can't tell you how important that is, because when I first came to Man on Fire, David, I was completely lost. I felt hopeless, and somehow you can bring all the shame, all the dirtiness of our lives to the surface and still show us unconditional love. And what a gift you have for the world. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you are here, that you started Man on Fire, and that the men that you help, it's just an incredibly inspirational thing. And I just want to say thank you for all the guys in the community, I'm sure, that just hold such a high regard for you. So thank you very much for that. Now, before Man on Fire existed, David, who was David Mehler?
Such a beautiful question. Well, you know, Roy, what we do has nothing to do with who we are. So who was I? You know, when I was around 5, 6, 7, I was told by my parents that I would stand up to the bullies, that I would always protect people. I'd always protect little kids. I understood right from wrong. I had a deep love for everybody. I was blessed with just loving people. And so I was just this passionate kid, full of life, saw the magic of life. And then, like so many of us, we get hit by lightning and we go into the forgetting. And the question is, for how many years and how many decades will we stay in the forgetting, where we hurt ourselves and we hurt other people? And at what point will we start to wake up? And if we do start to wake up, will we continue to accept waking up, or will we try to go back to sleep, which you and I both know just means a life of pain? So who was I? I was a curious little boy that had a wonderment for life. I saw the magic of life. I always had a smile on my face. I rode around my town of Riverdale, New York, better known as the Bronx, on top of my poodle's back, and I would just wave to people, and I just thought, like, that's how life is. That's who I was, and I've kind of returned to that guy.
What was a breaking point in your life where you knew that things had to change?
That's a loaded question. So there were many pivotal moments. One of which was I would wake up with ulcers. My first year out of college, I would wake up with ulcers. I was selling photocopy machines for a year. I was great at it. I was, the superstar, the up-and-coming superstar in the company. Had a company car and making good money. But I would wake up with ulcers. And I went to the doctor. He's like, well, your mother has ulcers. It's hereditary. Why don't you take this? And then the worst scenario is, we could always do surgery. And my spirit, my soul said, hey, I have a better idea. And I quit my job that day. And wouldn't you know, the next day I woke up pain-free. That was a pivotal point. And what I mean by that is I realized that I wanted to do something with my life where I woke up with a higher level of connection, higher level of purpose. I knew that I wanted to help people because that's who I was as the 5-year-old little boy. And I got away from that, through alcohol and through sarcasm, through 185 pounds of muscle. I got away from that through my own hurts, wounds, and traumas. And that was a pivotal moment where I realized, no, I want to get back to doing something that I'm passionate about, where I wake up every day and I feel like I have a deeper purpose. And off I went to chiropractic school. And that was an incredible journey, because in my fourth year at school, while I still had this big ego, because for many of us at that age, chiropractic school was still like a continuation of college. So it was like permission to still not have to take responsibility. So one day I'm laying down on this guy's table. He does this work called network. And I'm laying down on his table. And the first 4 visits, I didn't feel anything, but I heard people making sounds. I saw people going through all sorts of weird body movements on the table. I'm this tough guy from the Bronx, arms crossed, like, oh, that'll never happen to me. This is bull. And on my 5th session, my body, Roy, starts undulating like a dolphin swimming through the water. Next thing you know, this tough guy that since age 13 hadn't shed a tear, that was the day my father moved out of my house. Next thing you know, I'm a basket case. I'm crying, I'm laughing, I'm screaming, I'm moving like Flipper through the water. And I remember when I sat up and I finally opened my eyes, I looked down at my hands and I'm like, oh my God. It looked like the hands of a 5-year-old little boy, where that was where I still had my innocence. That is where I still have my purity, my playful spirit. You know, we can get into why I lost that, why all little boys lose that safety to be in their playful, pure spirit. But I looked at my hands and I'm like, I felt in that moment that I came back home. I came back home to who I really was. No ego, no posturing, no holding on to identities. In that moment, I was like, there I am. And that was a pivotal moment for me that sent me on, an incredible trajectory of being a chiropractor for 25 plus years in New York City, very successful. And I got to take care of, people like Hugh Jackman, Wayne Dyer, Donna Karan, Tony Robbins. Like, I was very gifted at what I did. And as I share with a lot of, guys inside of our community, there's a time frame of our life where we do what we want to do, what we're passionate about. And then one day God knocks on your door and he says, hey, I hope you had fun doing what you enjoyed, because now I have something different for you to do. It's not what you want to do. It's what I want of you. And that came for me about 11, 12 years ago. And that's how Man on Fire started. And we can go deeper into that, but I just wanted to answer the question that you put out there.
So what made you start Man on Fire? Like, why Man on Fire and not like People on Fire, or, like most of these self-help, if you want to call them. And I got to say, I can't call Man on Fire self-help, because that's not what it is. I think that for me, it was more self-discovery, like really learning who you were. But why did you start Man on Fire? What was your purpose there?
Yeah, let me go back for a second. I could come up with 1,000 ways to explain Man on Fire, but really it's a call to rise into the fullness of who God made you to be. That's it. Within that, you're going to have to go through a discovery. Within that, you're going to have to go through a shedding. Within that, you're going to go through lots of tears and lots of heartache and lots of laughter. But out the other side comes the real you. So here's a few reasons of how Man on Fire started. One of them, which is more playful, is my wife and I were working together, and we ran seminars called Soul Powered, helping people move from their head to their hearts. In the mornings, she would work with the women, and she called it Femme Flow, and she would get the women into their sensuality, sexuality, like really into their feminine energy. Because today, many women have a strong masculine mask on, right? We all have feminine and masculine energy. So her job is, let me help the women drop back into their feminine. Not that the masculine is wrong, but it's like their true identity is really more feminine, and women are terrified to show that feminine, which we'll get into later. So I would take the men in the morning, and I called it Man on Fire Balls In. And we would do some, rah-rah stuff, get them into tribal, primal energy. And then the men and the women would gather again a little bit later in the day, and the men are in their core masculine, the women are in their core feminine. The women could finally relax and surrender, because the men are finally standing there, hard on line, fully in their power, no placating, no pleasing, no yesing. And it was just beautiful to witness both men and women being in their true organic nature. So one day my wife said, I don't want to be your business partner. I just want to be your wife. So off she went with what's called Wild Woman in Love, where she would help single women soften into their feminine so they could attract their king. And that's pretty much where the birth of Man on Fire came from, which is like, okay, well, if we're not going to be working together, then I'm going to do this Man on Fire thing. That's the more playful version of it. The real version of it is, Roy, that I grew up in a home where I had two parents that could not have loved me more, but they didn't know how to love each other. And my father, when I was, 5 years old, I remember literally, I could feel it to this day. I put my fingertips in between his belt and his blue jeans, and I was trying to pull him off by his brown belt from behind. He weighed probably 225 pounds. And I'm a 5-year-old little boy. I'm trying to pull him off of my mother because he had her cornered in the kitchen on the floor, and he was, hitting her. And so I had a deep desire as a very young little boy to want to protect the feminine. I had an understanding of how much pressure could be on a man, that he could lose himself to that degree, because I could not love my father anymore. How could a man that's such a good person, that has such a beautiful heart, get to a place where he's taking out his own life frustrations on a woman? That shaped and molded me to want to be the protector in life, to really protect women, and also to get men to come back into coherence with who they really are. And, you go through all of life, and it really came full circle. I truly believe that our greatest hurts, wounds, and traumas, if we have the courage to unearth them, to dive into them, and to get to the other side of them, then it's the gifts that we're here to bring humanity. And so one of the gifts that I'm here to bring the world is to help a man come back into his heart, come back into his power, and to treat a woman with sovereignty, to treat a woman as a sacred queen that she is. And in doing so, because I'm biased, I feel like the world spins on its axis, because when a woman's heart could be revealed, the world becomes a magical place of belonging. But today, men are so misplaced. They're so out of touch, so out of tune, so in their immature masculine, watching pornography, having affairs, so out of integrity with who God made them to be, that part of what I'm doing, part of what you're doing, is we're waking men up in this world. And we're waking them up with power. We're waking them up by not sugarcoating it, but they could also feel our heart, right? Because you're not going to wake somebody up if you're judging them. So I'm here to wake up men to come back to who they are, so they can hold space for the feminine to shine that beautiful heart and reveal her radiance. Because think about a woman today. Most women are objectified. Most men are addicted to porn. Most men don't really see a woman for who she is. They don't see her as this sacred being that can give life to a child. They see her as an accomplishment, a trophy, a plaque, a success, an achievement. And so the filter is so off today of how a man is viewing humanity, how a man is viewing a woman, that I'm here to really help men return to their wholeness, return to their heart, so that we can hold that woman as a sensitive flower. And, I always say to guys, this woman that you're being abusive towards, this woman that you're cheating on, this woman that you're watching porn behind, imagine the two of you were 5 or 6 years old and you were just walking on the beach holding hands. That's who she is. You lost sight of that. That's a pure, innocent, beautiful girl that needs to be protected and brought all the way up to being a queen. And so when a man can come back into, harmony, back into coherence, back into alignment with who he truly is, the world will be a different place. War will literally end. Sex trafficking will end. Human trafficking will end. But we have to wake men up. Men are asleep.
That's a lot. That's beautiful. And why do you believe so many men today feel lost, numb, angry, and disconnected?
Why do they feel that way?
Yeah.
Well, there's a few reasons. Number one is we've all been hurt. For any man listening to this right now, the filter of our childhood is the filter through the man you are today. But if you could imagine what it was like for that little boy, like I could easily sit here going, it's no big deal. My father did the best that he could. And with all the stress that he was under, I understand why he was physically abusive to my mother. Like I understand these things. I forgive him. That's all the mental. That's all like me as an adult looking at it. But from the little boy that's 5, that's terrifying. So every one of us has had some form of physical, chemical, emotional, mental, spiritual abuse in our life. Right? Like for me, I thought I killed my dog at age 5. When I was playing with him, he died. I blame myself. When I was 9 years old, I got hit under my left eye by a golf club, and I asked my parents if they could still love me with one eye. And anyone listening right now, they can retrace or recall. They had things happen, whether it was a parent dying, whether it was a separation, a divorce, moving cities, moving countries. There's always an accumulation of different traumas that we've endured. And when that happens, our body goes into vigilance. Our body goes into fight or flight. Our body takes us out of being able to be present in real time. And we are hanging on for our dear lives, just trying to survive, trying to protect ourselves. Because the brain can't focus on growth and safety at the same time. So most of us are walking around in a vigilant body that can't handle the stresses of life. And so we choose things like pornography, we choose alcohol, we choose weed, we choose vaping, we choose overworking. Oh, let me make more money, then I'll finally feel like I'm enough. So why can't men get to this place? Is because most of them are in defense. It's like a cat that arches its back and like, I don't understand, why won't the cat let me pet it? Why won't the cat live into its full potential? It can't, because it's in vigilance. And almost every person that I've met is in some form of hypervigilance. And until you get somebody out of vigilance, it's going to be very challenging for that person to truly wake up, see what's really happening, and choose a life of growth.
Now, people can't think their way out of this, right, David? Like, you just can't sit there and try to change your mindset and think your way out of this. And I know that you have several really sacred tools that you use to help people get and face and feel their hurts. Can you explain a little bit about them?
Yeah, well, coming back to your question earlier, when you asked me, why are men like that? And number one, I said that, well, there's a lack of safety in their body. Number two, most men that I've worked with, and at this point it's over 10,000 and more intimately about 1,500, at the live events, they don't have a masculine role model. Who are we going to look up to? Ross from Friends, who's extraordinarily feminine. Maybe there was a John Wayne, there was a Clint Eastwood, right? But who are we looking up to? Who's modeling living in the mature masculine? Who's modeling a man that's in his power, inner sovereignty? He's walking around like a king, not pompous, but he's here to help others, fully awake, fully aligned. It just doesn't exist today. So men need other men to stop placating, stop sugarcoating, and give it to each other straight, right between the eyes. That's what happened when you and I met, right? Like, you wanted somebody to just call you forward more so than call you out. Like, I'm not here to put anybody down, because I see the bigness, I see the trueness of who somebody really is. So men need other men to really call them forward. They need to travel in brotherhood. They need support. They need challenge, because men rise with challenge. Iron sharpens iron. And then they need accountability. And when you get that for a man in his life, amazing things can happen, as we've witnessed. So coming back to your question, we have a famous saying in our community that information is not transformation. You could read all the books. You could watch a YouTube video. People are going to listen to this podcast. They're going to nod their head. Yep, that makes sense. Yep, that makes sense. Yep, that makes sense. But nothing will change. Nothing will change, because the information is up here. And until the information that you've accumulated up here, just like somebody learning about don't touch an oven when it's hot. You'll burn yourself. Well, I don't know what that means. Now I know what it means. So we have tools that help drop a man from his head into his body. Once he's in his body, this is where the wisdom is. You have all the wisdom in the body, more so than thousands of books you could read, more so than 30 years on a couch at a therapist's office where you're talking, because the fundamental purpose of a thought is to keep you in thoughts. The fundamental purpose of thoughts is to keep you from taking action. Fundamental purpose of thoughts is to keep you from feeling, because if you were to feel, then you'd have leverage to actually act. So most men are living in their heads. They hear things like, where are you right now? You're so in your head. I can't feel you. Were you even paying attention to me? Most men will say, I was at my kid's Little League baseball game or my daughter's recital, but I wasn't really there. I was at work in my mind. So men are living up here, and the sacred journey that a man must make, the 12 inches that a woman really wants, is his journey from his head into his heart. And that's what we're helping men do. We have sacred tools that I learned that were developed by a mentor of mine. And for the past 30 years, I've been mastering them and teaching men the fastest path towards growth is through the body, not through the mind.
Yes, it's so incredible when you actually connect to your body and know where that safety lies and where that trauma lies. And when you're able to face the trauma and allow yourself to fall into the safety of it, it's an instantaneous feeling of like, I got this. Before you're like, how do I deal with this? I'm crying and I'm smoking weed or watching porn or addicted to sex or drugs or whatever mine was definitely women and sex was my addiction, because that's at the moment made me feel good. But
it wasn't your addiction, Roy. It was your escape from pain. That was your vice that you chose. We call it an addiction. It's not an addiction. This is the behavioral patterns that I chose to get away from the pain that I was in.
Now there's much healthier ways. When I feel unworthy for a moment, I can connect with that in my body. I can get into a CE1 where I can get deep into my heart and allow myself to feel that unworthiness for a moment and see how silly it is afterwards. And, allowing men a place to really express themselves without being judged, I have to see as one of your superpowers. Like walking in that room with 15, 20, 30 other men and just watching all of us mold softly into each other and support each other and not be judged, not feel like I'm an asshole, but actually somebody who's looking for love and worthiness. And communities like yours really need to be, they really need to be expressed, shown, and have easy access for people out there. And especially younger men, 18, 19, 20, who are completely lost because they also don't have masculine mentors. Everyone's so busy trying to accumulate stuff. We all were, right? I know I was for sure. And why are men often successful on paper, but really broken internally?
Roy, if it's cool with you, can I just go backwards for a moment?
Absolutely.
Okay, so a few things. So number one, if I really want to simplify life, I would say that every single human being is doing their absolute best to get away from their pain. Problem is most people don't know that. So this is why guys turn to porn, turn to affairs, turn to earning more money, turn to alcohol, turn to weed, turn to vaping, turn to video games. If I can stay busy enough and not have to slow down, then I don't have to face what's really in there, which is a world of hurt. So every human being to some degree feels some level of unworthiness, unlovableness. This happened to us when we were a little boy. And the adult doesn't really understand that. And so the little kid is still running the show. So we're all trying to outrun our pain. Like, let me just outrun my tail. You can't. At some point in time, you have to turn around, face, and feel it. So when you used the word CE earlier, which stands for consciousness exercise, we are helping men face and feel the stuff that they're trying to outrun. And the more that they try to outrun it, the more pain that they're in, the more they're hurting themselves, the more they're hurting people that they love. So that's number one. Number two is just to give context for what we're discussing. So we just had an immersion. It was our 89th immersion over the past 11 years, 89th live event where we're hosting anywhere between 18 and 36 men, for 3.5 days together, live in person. So there was, of all the men that were there, and there was a man in his 70s, there was also a teenager, 18.
Wow.
And he came in, hood over his head. You could barely see like his upper eyelid, totally timid, totally afraid, feeling unworthy, feeling like he wasn't good enough, feeling unlovable, didn't feel like he deserved to occupy space, or what could I possibly say? At the beginning of day 2, the hood is coming on up to here. By the end of day 2, the hood's here. Day 3, hood off. Day 3.5, making eye contact, speaking. One of the leaders in the room, full of life, full of energy, full of love. We're all celebrating. This is what's possible when men gather together and champion one another. We live in a world where men are trying to crush each other, compete against one another, put each other down, because men who have not done work on themselves will judge others because they don't see that the thing I dislike or judge or hate about another person is that which I haven't accepted within myself. This is how life works. We name, blame, shame, judge, and project. Because we haven't done the internal work. We haven't faced our own shadow. We haven't faced our own feelings of inadequacy, unworthiness, ineptitude, feeling unlovable. So this kid, day 3.5, he's a leader. By day 4, he's talking about coming to the next seminar. Now he's going home. He's going to have a beautiful conversation with his father. It was just incredible to watch him wake up. No way that happens sitting on a therapist's chair. No way that happens when reading books, listening to, no chance. Because he's in a room where he's immersed in a field with such a super high frequency and vibration that he had no choice but to open up. Example number 2, 50-year-old man that's there. And he's pulling the whole room into a mental conversation of, I don't know if I should get engaged because she can't have children and I want to have children. 2 years he's been battling with that question. And by the way, as a side note, a previous guy that shared that with me, for 5 years, he was deciding what he should do in his marriage. He said, I'm in the paralysis of the decision. He had a stroke. And he said the paralysis of the stroke mirrored the paralysis of not being able to decide. So come back to my event, the immersion. This gentleman, he's battling with, should I get engaged or should I leave her because I want to have children? So he tried to pull the whole room into this mental discussion because the mind likes to pull in other minds to talk. Why? Because as long as we talk, we don't have to feel. As long as we feel, we'll never change. So I told him my famous line, STFU, right? Shut the front, and I demanded that he get up to the front of the room. I took him through consciousness exercise number 5, which for the listeners, what does that mean in English? I took him through an exercise to help him face his lies, his stories, all the fears that he's been up against that is preventing him from seeing the deepest truth. But before I did that, Roy, I asked him, if you knew the truth to this answer, would you live that truth? And he paused and he goes, I don't know. I said, well, then I'm not going to serve you. I have no interest in giving you my energy and giving you my time if you're committed to holding on to this problem. Right? So guys that want to hold on to the problem, we can't help them. Guys that are saying, no, please help me get to the other side of this problem. Okay, I'll give you my time. So finally he said, yes, I want help. And if I heard the answer, if I knew the answer in every cell of my being, I'll live it. I said, great, come up to the front of the room. We did this exercise where he lays on his back. We had him breathe a certain way in and out the mouth. And for about 5 minutes, his body just took over this natural rhythm, kind of like when you pedal a bicycle and you don't have to think about it. And next thing you know, he starts hysterically laughing and he starts saying the words, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. I can't believe I was being so stupid. He's like, I'm in love with her. Of course I'm going to get engaged to her. 5 minutes, he gets to the truth, whereas for 2 years, he was battling inside of his head. That's the power of the work that we do. That's the power of gathering together as men in a sacred environment. That's the power of men standing for one another. And as you suggested earlier, well, how did I get to a place where I don't judge people? Well, I got back to who I always was, but I had to do the work. I had to get with my own shit. I had to get with my own shame, my own guilt, my own judgments, my own unworthiness, my own unlovableness. And when a man does that work, he's now clean. He's coming into life where he sees people for who they really are, and he can hold them to the fire of who they are if they want that, right? Some people want to grow, some people don't. So you meet people where they're at. Guys that come to our events, they want to grow. So guess what? You're going to be held to the fire.
And that's so hard, but yet so freeing. It's really difficult because people try to keep telling themselves this mental story of who they actually are in front of everybody else. But deep inside, they want the freedom of expressing themselves wholly and who they're supposed to be.